The Heart Eater, Report 2, Stolen Report. With great cost and numerous injuries, the agency was able to raid the archives of the company, the group of puppet masters behind the Ashman. Similar to the agency, the company suppresses information about creatures and phenomena to the general public because they want to profit off the abilities and powers that these creatures have to control the populace from the shadows and use whatever means to keep themselves in power. Only they use more extreme methods. Murder, torture, or even enslavement aren't outside their limits. Another detail is that while the agency is mostly human with the occasional beneficial creature, the company is pretty much the opposite. Mostly creatures with the occasional deviant of a human. They are also very hostile to the agency as well. They think humans have no right to know the truth, and they are annoyed that the agency are constantly getting in the way of their ambitions. So they attack our agents, and we attack theirs. And when a base is found, it is raided to capture their imprisoned creatures and raid their archives. Some agents were lost in the attack, but even more Ashmen and various other creatures of the company were destroyed in the process. It allowed the agency to gather a ton of data on creatures and phenomena that were not heard of before, one of which our agents had a recent encounter with, a deadly hunter called the Heart Eater. It is a humanoid creature that initially looks like a man wrapped in bandages, but when it finds a target, it quickly unravels to reveal numerous eyes, teeth, and appendages. The Heart Eater can also make crowds ignore its existence as it chases its targets. Killing it doesn't help, as shortly after it dies, it'll come back to life, stronger, faster, and cleverer to the ways that killed it. The only answer was to contain it. It was captured by an agent that it was chasing, by the agent tricking it into falling into cement. Bringing it back to base, little was able to be discovered about the Heart Eater and why it was targeting the agents, until we cross-referenced the company files. The below is taken from company files. Subject 33092A. Purpose: Agent Hunter. Name: Last Beat of Night's Agony. The Last Beat of Night's Agony is the result of our continued quarterly project on how to minimize the impact the agency has on our ongoing project. The Last Beat is a particularly clever application. Not only is it immune to the notice of crowds, it is nearly impossible to actually kill. Massive trauma isn't enough. Bullets will pop out, cuts will heal, and burns will mend, and somehow doing enough damage to kill it? Give it a few moments, and it'll just regenerate and continue to chase after its chosen target. Only the method to kill it will no longer work due to the adaptive regeneration prototype we install into it. Meaning, the last beat will only get stronger, faster, and meaner, as it'll keep the chase going long after its target will have exhausted itself. Even ripping it to pieces will let it use the ability of our sentries, letting the last beat break itself apart into ash and restore itself back to new. This will leave a critical weakness similar to the sentries, where during the transformation to ash, the last beat will be vulnerable to water or fire retardant materials. But the last beat will rarely use this state unless completely ripped apart, so it is a minor concern, and the panic it will induce in the whole immortality thing will get people to make mistakes that will cost them their lives. Why did the company commission the Last Beat of Night's Agony project? Because the agency was becoming bothersome. They had started to really interfere with our ongoing acquisitions and closures, and thus they had to be delayed, if not eliminated. It is not like the resource for the last beat weren't easy to acquire. Just find a person who encountered the real world and fallen victim to it, recover the body, and present a partial animation. During that partial animation period, the resource is very suggestive to various manipulations, So it's very easy to implant the idea that the cause of their tragedy is due to the actions of the agency. After all, they were humans and they failed to save their fellow man. It doesn't matter that the agency may be innocent, that they just didn't arrive in time to prevent the accident or maybe even knew about it. Humans are fickle like that, very quick to place the blame for their own weaknesses. Combined with the suggestiveness of the reanimation process, the resource is very quick to agree to all sorts of agonizing modifications. Ones that usually wipe out the memory and personality of the resource in the process. Ops, well, it would behove us to not take advantage of such a perk. Once all the modifications have been installed and testing occurred, the last beat has been able to lock onto the nearest agent and became extremely agitated until it was released from confinement. Drones were released and tasked with following the prototype as it began to fulfill its base programming. And while the cameras were able to catch it, the normal people it passed by were unable to consciously notice the prototype as it traveled. Such modifications, now that they've proven valuable, will be scheduled to be implemented into future designs. Because the ability to be blind to the public is absolutely vital to our operations. Why just installing such a filter into our sentries will increase their productivity by at least an additional 25%. And worse, if they happen to somehow capture or kill the last beat of Night's Agony, well, there's an endless amount of victims out there we can use for resources. Constructing another one will be even easier the next time. This will allow the company to constantly drain the agency's resources while learning what new methods, technology, and personnel they add to their playbook. It's only a net gain because human lives are very cheap.